The Seattle Kraken will host the Calgary Flames in what will be their penultimate preseason game. And I want to talk about a few things regarding Berkly Catton and the roster and how it's shaping up to look ahead of the regular season.
You are Locked On Kraken, your daily podcast on the Seattle Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Seattle hockey fans, welcome to another episode of Locked On Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we bring you your favorite team, the Seattle Kraken, every single day. Erica L. Ayala here, your host of Locked On Kraken, been your host from the very beginning. Want to let you know today's episode of Locked On Kraken brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. You can download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com, and you'll win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Again, Erica L. Ayala, your host of Locked On Kraken, on the road again, but don't worry, I will be back in Seattle soon. Here for A10 Media Day with CBS Sports. Also an accredited media member, of course, for Milano Cortina. We're so excited about what the rosters will look like for the women's and men's tournament. But let's talk Seattle Kraken. And first, I want you to hear what the identity of this team is shaping up to be. We heard from Lane Lambert ahead of tonight's game. We also heard from Berkly Catton, and I'll play you some of that audio. But I first want to start off for, what is Lane Lambert even looking for as we get ready to wind down the preseason and he cuts down to the opening day roster?
Hardworking team, just team first kind of mentality, period. We're a four-line hockey team. Everybody has a role and everybody's important.
I loved what he said, a hardworking team first, period type team. That's what Lane Lambert is looking for. That's what I've seen in being at training camp. That's what we're hearing from the players. And, this has been a lunch pail team before under Dave Haxtell. We talked about it. The more I see how this team is responding to Lane, comparing that to Dan Bylsma last year, and I'm not exactly sure still what I think about why this is, but I just get the sense that there was a lack of discipline somewhere. I've told you before that it could also be that there was just miscommunication and misalignment throughout the organization, and that impacted either how Dan Bylsma was able to coach or how his coaching moves were perceived. I think there's a world in which that's true, just given some of the moves and how they went down. But this Lane team, the buy-in is earned. And by that, I mean, yes, the guys came in sharp, and I can only imagine that's because this coaching staff under Lane Lambert really set some expectations and made some things clear. And part of that, I think, is that, you got to work for your position. Of course, that is a huge topic of conversation when it comes to Berkly Catton. We're going to talk a little bit about the Firebirds roster a little bit on this live show right now, and then again a little bit later. But Berkly Catton is a perfect example of someone who knows what the expectations are from this coaching staff and now is trying to do his best to execute that. And so I want to play some clips from Berkly Catton ahead of tonight's game, the preseason game. And then let's break down a little bit, what is at stake for the Kraken, but also for Catton. So here's Berkly Catton speaking earlier today.
Kind of been every game getting a little bit better, a little bit more comfortable, and I think as the lineups kind of get set heading towards regular season, you're going to be seeing some more regular season like hockey. So I'm excited for it, and I've been feeling good, and just got to keep building.
You face some pretty mature competition as far as physicality, age as well. What do you want to get after as far as what you've learned about this league so far here for this evening?
Yeah, I think just the details are really important, and earning trust. I think kind of starts from the D zone a little bit, and and then once I get the puck in the O zone, just kind of do my thing. Playing on a really good line and I have two really good players, so hopefully we can create a little bit. Not really putting too much pressure on myself, just go and play, kind of the way I've always been, and I think if I do my thing, I'll put myself in a good position. And, obviously I really want to make this club and want to put my best foot forward. And, just that starts with just me going out and doing my thing. Yeah, I think just the things that I do well, can translate even to this level. So just trying to, put myself in good positions as much as I can. And just how, like I said before, how important the details are of, everything. So I think it's just been, it's been lots of fun and learned a lot about myself these past couple games. There's so much to learn. I mean, like I always say this, but like Jordan Everly and Jaden Schwartz, they're, Saskatchewan guys who really looked up to growing up. So I think just anytime they say something, it's great for me to listen to them, and they obviously want to help me out a lot too. So I think there's been everything from off the ice stuff to on the ice stuff. They've helped me out a lot and made it a lot easier on me.
I'm muted. Haha. That was Berkly Catton talking. And what stood out to me is that he knows that this is a defensive minded team. He knows that this is a coaching staff that has high expectations. And he's looking to execute and follow through on that. Now we will hear from Lane Lambert a little bit as we get ready to take you over to Climate Pledge Arena. Eddie Olczyk is back in the booth tonight. I thought JT and John did a great job, and now we've got the full crew coming back as we again get closer to the season. But we're going to hear from Lane Lambert, but as I'm sure you've noticed, even in the last game, Berkly Catton getting a look at the wing. And I've said this before on the show. I know other people have talked about it. Catton, at minimum, being able to have the versatility of playing wing and a center, but likely wing at the NHL level, is going to bode well for his development one way or another, whether he makes the team this year or not. And, I think he's got a lot to prove. But tonight, we're expecting to see him on the line centered by Beniers. So he'll be working with Yanni Newman, who I do expect to make this Kraken team. At this juncture, I'd be surprised if he's not in the mix there. I just think that he's played spectacularly well this preseason. Then you've got Wright centering Marchment and Tolvanen, Gaudreau centering Cartier and Hayden, and Mulgaard centering Stevens and Winterton. You also heard from Lane Lambert that he wants this to, be a team that is 4 lines deep, hard work, team first, period. I like Mulgaard. I think it's a good sign, as we'll talk about coming up, that he's not yet with the Firebirds. I think there's a chance that he probably will be with the Firebirds to start the season. That's just my read on things, but I could be wrong. And I kind of hope that I'm wrong. If you missed it, we had an exclusive interview with Oscar Fisker Mulgaard on the show when I was in Seattle. Again, just a quick trip here in Pittsburgh for some other things for CBS Sports, and then I will be back in Seattle. But Mulgaard is a guy I really would like to see shine through. And so let me know in the comments, what do you think between Newman, Catton, and Mulgaard? Who has the best chance of making the team? And I guess, do you think Catton has shown enough to be an NHL mainstay? We'll get into that coming up on this episode of Locked On Kraken. Today's episode of Locked On Kraken brought to you by our friends at Monarch Money. Listen, we know that when it comes to finances, it can be difficult to keep track of everything. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean and easy to use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people like me who have busy lives. I'm literally only going to be here in Pittsburgh for less than 24 hours before I hit the road again. So I don't always focus on my finances. I mean, I still just keep my receipts all over the place. And so having something where I can input my bank information and then export and be able to look at all of my financials, not just me, but with my financial advisors and bookkeepers, has been huge. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. I'm telling you, I have found the snapshots and the different dashboards to be greatly helpful as I get myself in order. And so if you want 50% off your first year at Monarch, then go to monarchmoney.com and use promo code Locked On NHL. Hello, Seattle hockey fans. Welcome to a quick live episode of the Locked On Kraken show. Erica L. Ayala here. William, thanks for joining here. William saying, looking forward to seeing Cat with Yanni and Maddie. Yes, we're going to see that tonight. We're going to see Catton on the wing. This is something that I think is interesting because I'm going to play some clips from Lane Lambert in just a little bit. And, I think that it's in the vein of, as we've heard the Kraken say before, giving every opportunity for Catton to make this squad. I think this is going to be a really good test because, as you'll hear from Lane Lambert in a little bit, I'm actually going to go to Lambert's comments and then break down just a quick overview of the Coachella Valley Firebirds roster. I'm actually going to flip those things. Yeah, I think that this is a really good opportunity for Catton because what's coming down the pike is that Lane Lambert is going to start prioritizing, and again, one more home game. Because I think they have two. I think I said penultimate, but now let me double check because I'm all over the place and I can't remember what's what. No, they have, a preseason game on Wednesday. I will be back in Seattle for that. And so Lane Lambert is going to want to start putting his more opening day roster together. And that's what he said earlier today.
Just continued improvement in all areas. I think we've been trying to play faster, and we kind of fade in and out of some of the things that we've been discussing. So we have to make sure that we be more consistent with our mentality and how we want to play, and then from an offensive standpoint, just generating more chances, generating a little bit more net presence. I think we've done a pretty decent job at times, but just an overall consistency. 60 minutes. Well, we're going to play them on wing again tonight. We like what we saw certainly in certain areas in Vancouver, and just kind of get him acclimatized to that so he can become a little bit of a utility guy if we need him to be. But again, it's him getting his feet wet in terms of understanding what he can and can't do at this level, and generating some offensive opportunities. That's what we're looking for. It's very important, and obviously for special teams, because now, through the first two, for sure, exhibition games, and what it turned out to be with injuries, the first four for the most part, and you're even talking about tonight as well with some of the guys we have out and not available. But we need to get our special teams going, get dialed in. It becomes a rhythm, and it becomes there's a couple of different things that we're doing on both the power play and the penalty kill that need to be sort of ingrained, and so that it becomes more fluid. So it's important to get more of a game group together, I guess, or more of a final roster group.
I did it again. All right. So I wanted to stop there because you hear Lane Lambert talking about, and the game has started here, so I'll keep you apprised of anything. But he wants to start getting that game group together. You hear him talking about there's still a lack of consistency. Some of that is understandable, still working through preseason. You've got this is more of a new threats lineup to me. This is not in service of guys that I think we are expecting to be on that NHL squad early on. This is more in service to some of these young guys, giving Mulgard a really good look, Hayden, Catton. So I think it's going to be interesting. Todd, I waved to you earlier, but I just wanted to, while I have my mic on, say hello. Thanks for hopping in. So I think, again, this is going to be a huge game. Also, Philip Grubauer in net. So I think this is a huge game for him as well. We saw that Murray got a full game. He talked a lot about just, he hadn't really played much, and getting that full game, feeling good about things, it was important. And so I think this is going to be the same, more of the same, and it's going to be a good test for Philip Grubauer and for what still has some of them are prospects. It's tough calling Hayden, I think, a prospect at this point, but someone who's in our pipeline trying to cut his teeth, so to speak. So I thought it was interesting, though, this idea of focusing on the identity defensively. I love the need to really hunker down on special teams, and we'll see how they do tonight. But then also knowing that this is a team that has to get to the net front, and we've broken down some of the natural stat trick. I am going to go on after the game and break down some of the analytics from the game specific. So when those are ready, we'll talk about it. But I think that there's some promise here, but there's still a lot of work to do. There's still a lot of work to do for this Seattle Kraken team. Todd saying, Grubauer, keep him fresh for the Olympics. But Murray, everything that we've been hearing from camp is that the Seattle Kraken like the idea of having versatility in net. So I'm assuming Joey Daccord, he really has been leaps and bounds the better goaltender in the past few seasons, right? And I don't think that's changing from what I've seen. We'll see how Philip Grubauer does tonight. But, I think that when it comes to Murray, it's a little bit of a safety valve if we don't get what we need from Philip Grubauer. I think it's also a little bit of maybe a relief to Philip Grubauer. Maybe there was some kind of agreement made with the German gentleman because, like you said, keep him fresh for the Olympics. How much does Philip Grubauer want to keep playing? He did speak earlier in camp. We played that clip because I think in what he so strongly and enthusiastically said, we kind of got nuggets into what he didn't like about last year. But he did say in those comments that he's focused on the Kraken, that he knows he's going to the Olympics. So there is some relief in that. And he's not with Team Germany right now. He's with the Seattle Kraken. So again, all the more reason why I think an outing like this is going to be important for Catton. It's going to be important for Mulgaard. It's going to be important for Newman, who of the three of them, I think has the best chance to make the roster. And then it's going to be important for Philip Grubauer. We saw what Murray could do in a full game situation. And now, what can Grubauer do? There's some competition there, but I don't know. The Kraken have entertained and said they're open to keeping 3 goaltenders. Now, is that just some gamesmanship or the front office kind of talking to maybe create a little bit more of a heightened sense of competition? Is that really something that they want to do? I guess we'll have to see. But right now it's Joey Daccord for sure. And then we'll see about that. Todd saying, yeah, I like it. Murray is to support Joey. Good answer. Yeah, I think it's a safety valve. If it doesn't work out with Grubauer, and I said this a few times last season, I didn't like, quite honestly, how we handled the Grubauer situation, especially because we all saw it coming, right? It's not like he kind of got really bad out of nowhere. It has been a decline. There's been a regression here, and nothing had been done until we kind of embarrassed the guy because we can't get rid of him. We don't want to buy out. There's, the money involved in the buyout puts us in a tough spot. So, I hope that for Philip's sake, obviously for the organization as well, but I hope things are kind of sorted out. But I do think there's going to be competition there. And I like that it seems that it's a more proactive approach to goaltending, because if you listen to the show, you know that I feel that goaltending has been our unknown. And how many times have I screamed on this podcast that Joey Daccord, we run him into the ground. We ran Philip Grubauer into the ground. We ran Martin Jones into the ground. Like, we have a history of doing this. So that's another part of it. So we'll see. William saying, good to have Eddie back on the broadcast. So yeah, we're almost there. It's almost there. Todd saying the contract, then the injury, but he recovered well last spring. I think he did. But what we also heard from I think you're talking about Philip Grubauer, but let me know if you're talking about Joey Daccord. But Philip, obviously, I think that he's made it very clear he wants more consistent repetitions. I don't think that he is of the illusion that he's the starting goaltender. I mean, maybe, I don't know. I think Joey's clear cut right now, but I think he wants more reps, and that makes a lot of sense. So I guess we'll see. We're gonna close out the show with just a little bit more from Lane Lambert, and then also a quick preview of who we are expecting to see for the Firebirds, which of course means that there's some new threats who could potentially wiggle their way onto an NHL roster, especially, quite honestly, with some injuries that we have. So we'll talk about that coming up on this live episode of Locked on Kraken. This episode of Locked on Kraken brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. We know the NFL season is in full swing, and FanDuel has an offer that you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your first $5 bet wins, you will get $300 in bonus bets. That's something that you can use when it comes to your same game parlays, your player props, if you like futures bets, which we'll be talking about on Locked on Kraken. You can even check out all of the action during live games. So whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Seattle hockey fans, we've got John and Eddie back in action. The Seattle Kraken are at CPA. It's scoreless right now as they are hosting Calgary in what will be the penultimate game at Climate Pledge Arena of the preseason. And we've been talking about Berkly Catton. We heard a little bit from him. We talked a lot about goaltending in that last segment. Hey, Kevin, how you doing? We talked a little bit about Mulgaard, who I really like, and Newman, who I think needs to make the team. I just think he really needs to be on this team. I love it, Kevin, watching with the game on the background. Me too. Got started a little later than I wanted to out here in Pittsburgh for a little bit. A10 Media Day tomorrow for the men's and women's basketball. So, but I think it's a really nice mix here. I'll just say the lines again: Catton, Beniers, Newman, Marchment, Wright, and Tolvanen, Cartier, Gaudreau, and Hayden, Stevens, Mulgaard, Winterton, who is not someone that we talked about, but I'm very curious to see how things end up with Winterton. Then we had Dunn and Larson, Lindgren and Fleury, and Evans and Alexiak. Grubauer has started in net here. Let's close out here just with a few more comments from Lane Lambert about what he expects this team to be like. And then we'll talk about the Firebirds just briefly. Some guys did have pretty solid camps, but not good enough, I don't think, to make a case for them to be on the NHL starting roster. But some of those guys are definitely going to be on the short list for call-ups, at least from what I saw. Let's hear from Lane, and then I'll tell you a little bit about your Coachella Valley Firebirds.
Well, he had a really good summer. He came back in, in watching film on him and watching him live now. He's certainly, I think he's gained a half a step or a step, which is something that, we wanted him to do. And he put in a great effort to do that this summer. Clearly a guy who has a knack around the net. He's a big body. He's done his part from that perspective in terms of what he's done offensively here in the preseason, and just continue to grow and improve in that manner. But also we're watching his details, his systems, his defensive play. And, he's doing well there as well. But again, there's always things we can improve on with every player.
So that was a little bit about... Oops, that was a little bit about Newman. But, he's saying the same things about Wright and Beniers, but he talks, if anyone asks about Wright, he brings up Beniers. If anyone asks about Beniers, he brings up Wright. And he almost always talks about, honestly, Wright, Beniers, and Mulgaard. I really like Oscar Fisker-Molgaard's game. I know we had some folks chime in, I guess a couple of weeks ago now, and I don't know, is it too early for him to make a case in the NHL? I think maybe. But he's definitely someone I'm going to keep a keen eye on. We're going to close out here so we can all keep notes. Got my Fairmount notepad here, hotel notepad here. I'm gonna watch this game, and then I'll come back on after the game just to give a little bit of thoughts, break down some analytics. But I wanted to talk to you about this Firebirds roster because, by seeing who's announced to the Firebirds, obviously that means they will not be starting the season with the Kraken. But some of these guys, I think, made a pretty strong case. This is not going to be easy for you to read. Actually, I might as well just keep myself on the screen, since that's not going to be easy to read. But I just want to show you that the full roster is up here, and some names that I love it, Kevin. Hoping to see Coachella Valley in Ontario this season. I think that's going to be awesome. I still haven't been to a CV Firebirds game. I talked to Tad O'Had. He's our general manager and head coach of the Kansas City Mavericks, our ECHL team, because they come through Tulsa, which is where I live when I'm not on the road. But I haven't been to a Firebirds game, so I'm going to have to go. We did have Coach Hack, Dave Hackstall, Derek Laxdall. I'm like, come on, killing me with these names. Then there's my accent, of course. Anyway, Coach Lax, I like what he's doing here. And I know we got a little spoiled seeing them get to the finals back-to-back, or the Calder Cup final back-to-back, coming up short, unfortunately. But I do think Coach Lax could get them back there, and the talent. So that's what I want to talk about here. Some guys that I really liked watching in camp. I thought that Chalet had a really good camp. I thought he had a bounce back. Hasn't always looked his most consistent, but I thought Edward Chalet looked really good. J.R. Avon was someone who was really noticeable in drills in practice, so I'm curious to see what he's going to bring to the table. Jager Fergus, I think, had some interesting games. We talked about on an episode that he got a little lost in the sauce in a game that was skewing towards the penalty kill for the Kraken because he's not on the PK. But I think that he's shown that he's pretty smart. He can be a little slippery out there, unassuming. I think he reminds me a little bit, not necessarily his game, but the role I think he can play. He kind of reminds me of an Oliver Bjorkstrand. Like, I think he can grow into a role like that. I think he's got to get a little bit tougher and really use his high IQ and quickness a little bit more. But that's kind of what I see there. David Goyette, Logan Morrison had great camps. Lucas Dragisevich, great camp. Olafson, I liked. Tyson Jugnoth, good camp. Caden Hamill, I think, as well. And lots of goaltenders on this Firebirds. They've got Ian Shane, Nike Coco, Victor Osman, and Jack LaFontaine. So I have a sweet spot for a soft spot. That's the phrase, right? A soft spot in my heart for Jack Campbell, as well as Victor Osman. I called one of his college games. But I think it's going to be an exciting time in Coachella Valley. So whether you're like Kevin and going to see them on the road, or you get to catch them in Coachella Valley, I think it's going to be amazing. I hope to catch a game. It's going to be a little tough because I do have the Olympics, but we'll see where the road takes me next. But I'm going to close it out. We've got, I think we're halfway through, right? The first frame here, still scoreless. The Seattle Kraken, I believe, lead shots on goal 4-3, if I can see. I didn't tilt the TV before I got started here. But thanks as always for making Locked On Kraken a part of your daily destination, whether it's your first listen of the day, your midday listen, or your late night listen, or in this case, a live listen. I appreciate it. But yeah, I think I see it before we close out here, Kevin talking a little bit about who caught their eye, and is Maddie going to be a bust? Kevin saying, I think it's way too early to consider Matty a bust. I think he can shine with Kakko and Newman and or Catton. I agree with you there, William. And we talked to Matty Beniers. I do get the sense that that year of Beniers thing was a little bit more or not completely bubbly as I had anticipated or had, kind of honestly assumed it was. But I spoke to Matty. And I think he knows, he seems very focused to me. And I do think he's improved or simplified, kind of tightened up his skating. So I think it has to be a really good start for Beniers for his sake and for the Kraken's sake. So we'll see. All right, Kevin, I'm with you. Don't consider him anywhere near a bust, to be fair, but the two big body fins complement him perfectly. I agree with that. I've been saying that for a while. I do think Kakko, and Newman are huge. But again, and I'm going to talk more about this on the back end of this game. I'll come back on. If Kakko is out with an injury, who steps up there? But also, I think that does maybe open up some opportunities for some younger guys. And maybe that's why we see Catton being tested now to see what his versatility is. So then that you get maybe someone who's a little more NHL ready at that center spot if you need them, especially to start the season. All right, folks, let's step away here. There's a commercial break, so it's perfect timing. Thank you again. Appreciate it. Size helps, Todd. I always want bigger defensemen, and I love that we are getting some of those in the pipeline. But yes, we're not a particularly hefty or husky team, so we've got to really skate well. We've got to play really good defense. All right, let's get out of here for real now. I'll come back on the other side of the game. A reminder to be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and hold fast. Stay true. Oh, Todd, I was trying to get out of here, but I've talked about this on the show. We definitely could have gotten some talent defensively, but we'll have to see how it shakes out. All right, see you in a bit. Absolutely. Join me here just a little bit after the game. We'll get the final tally and some analytics to talk about because, some pretty big decisions that the Kraken have to make under new head coach Lane Lambert, but I think I'm feeling better than I thought it would at this point. Not necessarily promising a playoff spot or any miraculous run, but there's some working elements here. So now let's see if we can get it together. All right, Kevin. All right, Todd and William too. I'll catch you after the game. Enjoy. And again, hold fast, stay true, loud and proud. We say, let's go Kraken. And hey, go M's as well. I'll talk to you soon. Peace out, everybody.